So for the second half, basically, what we're going to do now is myself and Suda are going to give you a practical example of what we've been doing at Raffingers to basically get ourselves ready to make sure we're secure as much as we can be. And then also at the same time in terms of what practices and what we've implemented from our side. Now I'm just going to kick off on a couple of bits. We're going to start in reverse order. So from my point of view, being the data protection officer and implementing the GDPR policies was a huge transition for us for the last 18 months. And especially for a firm of accountants, and as you can imagine, we hold a huge amount of data. So we have an IRIS database, so IRIS being our principal accounting software that we use in the firm. And on this database, we have a huge number of different fields of data, be it personal data, names, date of birth, details in terms of bank details, that sort of thing. So what we found out over time is that there are a lot of individuals out there that want to try and get into our database. So what we've tried to do basically, first and foremost, the key thing for us was staff training, because we always felt that myself, Suda and the other partners could always be educated in terms of what threats we had as an organisation. But the key thing for us was our staff. We've got a huge staff base, up to about 80 people in the office. And if one of those individuals isn't necessarily quite aware of what's going on in terms of cybersecurity, that's our entry that anyone's going to get into our firm. So what we've really found has been good for us is staff training. So we regularly train our staff in terms of looking at cybersecurity. We held 3 or 4 different training sessions on GDPR in terms of what the staff should be doing and looking out for. And the training that we've done has always been very responsive to the threats that we faced. So it could be things like, for example, looking at emails that we receive. And more interestingly enough, what we've done is we actually did a data protection impact assessment as a firm about 12 to 15 months ago, I believe. And what we found was the threats weren't just necessarily over emails or electronically or people trying to get into our systems through our servers. We actually found out that we could have people coming in through the front door. And being a firm of accountants, we're going to have, say, 10 to 15 or 20 clients coming in and out the door every day. And so we had a firm that came into us to look at our whole organisation. And the guy there just followed one of our staff in through the front door. And our staff, being very nice as they are, let the guy in, didn't follow him into reception. And this guy then proceeded to walk around our different offices and rooms and pick up bits of paper and whatever data that we had lying around. And so you can see that the threat isn't just electronically. We've got to think about how we change our policies, our procedures, in terms of making sure all our staff are aware that if someone comes into the office now, you actually follow them through to reception and actually get them to go to where they're meant to be. And that was quite interesting. It's a culture change for us because everyone's sort of in their own funnel and just getting on with their own thing. So staff training's been a huge thing for us to make sure that everyone is really aware of what they need to do from their point of view when they're sending out any data as well. So for example, now what we have a policy in place is if you send out some data to any client, firstly, if it's accounts or tax returns, we actually send it through a secured portal that we have on our side. And then the client then has to log into that portal using their own username and password and download those documents. So it's not necessarily just sent over email. So we're trying to secure ourselves as much as possible. And then more interestingly enough, what we've decided now is that if a staff member sends some data out or sends an email really basically to the wrong person, they have to report it to us and let us know. And this is not a witch hunt. We're not necessarily looking to find out, oh, you've done something wrong. It's just making sure that everyone is aware of the threats. And so it's just making sure we're training our staff. And I was talking to 1 or 2 of the individuals earlier, what we tend to find now in terms of we've done all this staff training, but as threats are sort of coming up and as everything is evolving, we have our IT department, 2 guys who are working in our IT department, literally just coming out their offices and going to each department and sort of talking to each department on an ad hoc basis. Guys, we've had something that's just come up. Everyone be aware of this particular email address if you're going to receive this. That sort of thing is just on the job training. Now, in terms of GDPR, like I mentioned, what we've done basically is first step for us was to get an information asset register together. So as an organisation, we've got data everywhere. We've got about, I think it's 3 or 4 different servers. We've got a huge number of different drives, emails, everyone's PCs, laptops, everything. We've got data stored everywhere before GDPR. So what we had to do was actually look at where all our information is. So we got a register together to say, okay, our information is here, here, and here. And we looked at where it was all duplicated and went through a process of cleaning all our data. So we cleansed our data to make sure that we got rid of stuff that wasn't necessarily needed. So we had some laptops in the office where guys go out on audit, for example. Those have still got client files on there for, say, 6 months. So we said, that's not going to happen. Everything needs to be cleaned. Everything needs to be basically looked after properly. So now what we've done is we've trained our staff, but we've cleansed our data. So we've actually said, okay, if someone is going to get into our organisation, we know where all the data is stored. And so we can secure those specific locations. Whereas if you've got this particular laptop, we didn't know that data was there in the first place. So just trying to understand where all the data is held. We, like I said, did a data protection impact assessment. So we looked at our organisation. We had a company come in and basically look at us and say, okay, your threats are here, here, and here. And more interestingly enough for us was little things like, for example, we recently made Wi-Fi available for our staff. And we had someone come to the office and basically say, look, that's great, your staff are going to love it, but it makes you more, I suppose, more exposed to attacks from the outside. So someone could potentially sit in our car park at the office and hack into our IT system using the common Wi-Fi network, because we hand out the passcode to all our clients, and so it's easily available, and someone could then get into our database. So it's making sure we understand where all our threats are and what we can do. And it was an interesting point that I think Tim raised before. You're looking at all the external side of things, and there's only so much you can do to protect yourself from that. But the most important thing for us was the internal side of things, what we can do internally to make sure we're protected as much as possible. Now, in terms of data security, this was interesting because we never had a policy in place. Honestly, we never had a policy in place to change passwords regularly. And it took a bit of changing for a lot of people, because we've got a lot of younger people, but we've also got quite a lot of older people. And they're not necessarily as, I suppose, as ready to change as others. So we have to implement a policy of changing passwords every 6 months. Looking at client logins was a massive, massive point for us. So being a Xero accredited firm, we basically have most of our clients on Xero, the accounting package, and a lot of our clients then give us their login details for Xero, PayPal, their bank systems. So we hold for our clients, on average for each of our clients, we probably hold 4 or 5 different logins, and they're giving that to us in trust to say, hold on, you guys can basically go and log into my bank, you can download all the data you need. Now, what we need to think about is we're then looking after all that data, and we've got an individual who could be a disgruntled employee who could easily then just take that data away with them and log into someone's bank and make little transactions here and try and basically funnel money out of each of our clients. And it was actually a serious threat for us. So what we noticed was that there's nothing stopping one of our staff members to basically take someone's login details, and because they look after the payment cycle for that particular client, one of those individuals could easily deposit £10 a week from, say, 6 of their clients into their personal account, and the client wouldn't notice that. And that's where it got to in terms of, yes, we've got to look at cybersecurity from people coming into us, but then we've also got a lot of data that we hold for our clients. So how are we looking after our clients and their cybersecurity and people hacking into their systems? And so it's just making sure we're educating and training our clients, but then at the same time, for our client logins now, we always try and limit it to 2 people, and we have an approval system and an approval process. So where any payment is made, myself, Suda, or any of the other partners, we have to approve that payment to make sure that it isn't going into someone else's account where it shouldn't be. So as you can see, yes, we've got a lot of external factors that are coming into us as an organisation, but the most important thing for us was to look internally and how we can make sure we're fully protected to ensure our clients are basically protected at the end of the day. I'm going to pass it over to Suda now, who's going to go through the 4 points on the top.
Yeah, thank you, Mehul. What I'm going to slightly change a little bit. I'm going to talk about what we as a firm did over the last 4 years to get ready for everything that's coming up. We're going to have a Q&A afterwards, so I'm just going to try and mix them together. So if you have any questions that we have, while I'm talking to you, if you have any questions, just ask me and I'll try and answer them. Tim is here to help me out as well if there's any IT side of it. So that's what we're going to kick off with. What we did was about 4 years ago, we had a ransomware attack. I think it was on the 6th of December. It's a Friday, and around 4:30, I think. Luckily, it was late in the afternoon, and we had a ransomware attack, and all of a sudden the whole thing went down. So the way our servers are set up is we use a lot of software, so each software is on a different server. So the ransomware that came in those days didn't know how to go from one server to the other server. It just actually stayed in that server and attacked everything there. So we were lucky. So what happened was, after that, we looked at it and said, what's happened here? Why did this happen? So we worked over the weekend to find out how it happened. Then we sat down and thought about, what do we have to do to protect us from this? This is not just us. Everybody's having it. It's happening a lot more. So we reviewed everything basically from bottom up, everything that we could look at the servers, everything. So 2017. So it took us about nearly a year to see what we need to change. It's going to cost us quite a lot of money as well, because we're pretty medium-sized, I was going to say large, medium-sized practice, 80 odd people working there. So we looked at servers. We have on-premises servers in our the old setup. So we looked at going into the cloud-based server. Was there any advantages of doing that? And we looked at the prices at that 2017. The prices were a little bit higher for us. It was too expensive for us to go on the cloud-based. So also we had in-house expertise within the practice to keep the server in-house. So we decided to keep the server in-house. So for charities, if you're a larger charity, then you can do that. If you're a smaller charity working with 2 or 3 people, you're not going to be able to do that. You have 2 PCs, you're not going to spend the amount of time putting servers and everything. So I'll go onto smaller practices in a little bit later on, but I'm going to kind of carry on with what we did to get ourselves ready for this, and then I'll talk about smaller charities and what you can do to help you. So yeah, we decided to keep the server in-house, keep it, and then we built everything around it. Tim talked about firewall. We had firewall switches that was rather expensive. Meraki, I don't know whether you heard of the Meraki firewall switches. We put that in there. Actually, I can see from my app here, Meraki app, who's using what now. I mean, not using as in, so like Mehul's PC, I can see the data, transit data that's passing through Mehul's PC from here. That's how Meraki works. I'm sure Tim will tell you how it works. Basically, I don't know the technical side behind how it works, but I can actually tell from anywhere in the world, as long as I've got this app running, to see which PC is the traffic on each PC, where it's going. So yeah, so we installed that. It's quite expensive. I think it costs quite a bit of money. So we had to do it because that's one of the things we were taught. Well, we decided to do because the IT guys in the office said, yeah, we have to go with it. So we can monitor each PC traffic. If there's an attack on that PC, or that PC is what they call transmitting, I think it's called, it pumps out information to jam everybody else, we can actually jump in and take the PC off straight away, which we have done. I think about 2 weeks ago, one of the PC was actually jamming the whole system. So we found out which one it is and we took the PC off quickly. So that's one of the things that we've done. So the next thing is we looked at the software that we use, antiviruses. That's a lot of them, you got McAfee, this, that, and everything, there's the free ones. So we looked at all of them. We used AVG. We used AVG around the practice. So now we moved on to other software because we looked at which one's the best one for you. It does cost. They're not cheap, these things are. But yeah, we decided to go with I think we use Mimecast, I think, for email. And ESET, that does, don't know what does ESET does, Tim?
That's AV malware.
There you go, yeah. So so we use ESET and Mimecast to protect us. One of the things we get a lot is, I'm one of the partners and I look after a lot of charities, and our managing partner, Gary, was on holiday once, I think it was about 3-4 weeks ago. It was on 3-4 months ago, he was on holiday. Within the firm, I look after the firm's bank account as well as 3 partners who can make payments within the firm. So I had an email from Gary, or pretending to be Gary, saying that I'm on holiday in, I think somewhere in Europe, but I knew he was in America because he told me where he's going. He was in Florida. He says, I'm in some country, I can't remember, and I need a transfer because I'm in trouble. Can you transfer £5,000 to my account? And I thought, hang on a minute, I know Gary's not here because he's there, and I deleted it. So what they do is they find out, I don't know how they do it. They probably email Gary or email everyone to find out who's on holiday. And as soon as they get an out of office message, they think, okay, this person is away, so send an email. So then I found out that they send this email to all the partners because they know we are the key people, but only 3 partners can make payments. The other partners ignored it. But me, if I wasn't, on the ball at that time, I would have thought, what's happening here? So if Gary has gone to the same place where they mentioned, I would have been in, and I would have thought, oh, Gary's in trouble, so I'm not trying to ring him or, wasted my time. So that's one of the things that, you have to be careful if you are. So I'm sure charities will get these sort of emails all the time. make transfers, and this is one of the things that you've got to be careful. So what we do, as Mel said earlier on, staff training, educating your staff. You have to tell your staff. If you don't know the name of the sender, if you're not expecting an email from somebody, delete it. So what sometimes our guys do at work is they will delete it, and some of the newer members don't know. They might actually send around the office and say, "Is this for anyone?" So that's a big no-no. So staff training, education is a huge thing. So what our IT manager does now is every Monday morning he sends an email around to everyone saying, if you don't know, it's like a reminder thing. He sends an email to say, if you don't know, delete the email. Don't send it around, or don't forward it to me, he says, because forwarding it to him is going to make things even worse, because he's the IT guy, he's got administrator, he's an administrator, so he's got access to everything. So he says do it. So that's one of the things that we do. So staff training is ongoing. It's a bit of a pain, but that's one of the things we have to do. As Mel said, we have people who just come from uni. We got guys who are apprentices and people who are my age, a little bit older. So kind of it's very hard to. Go on.
I was going to say, do you initiate your training with a face-to-face initially? So if you've got someone new in, is that sort of part of the induction? Do you actually mention the importance of that? And then you say that you send around a regular email. How receptive is your staff to that training? And do they take it seriously, or do they see it and just think, oh, it's the same thing? I mean, what is there?
Yeah, the part of the induction is that we do spend 10-15 minutes with the IT system, all the procedures we have, and one of them is that we tell them, we have a handbook, there's a section, I think it's a page and a half, it talks about cybersecurity and what we have.
So the initial training that we did on GDPR cybersecurity probably about a year ago now, we made it mandatory for everyone in the firm. And of course it depends on the individual. Some individuals are really receptive to it. What we found, and really interestingly enough, was a lot of the younger guys, they're all very tech savvy, with all their phones and the gadgets and everything that they do these days. So even though they've done the training, they all understand exactly what the risks are as an organisation. So it was quite easy, and they were quite receptive to it all, because for them this was second nature, because they're always on their gadgets, always on their phones, and things like, for example, we talked about plugging in iPhones. People plug in their iPhones to their PCs. And I said that's a no-no. You can't be plugging in your iPhone to your PC. And so that was the only bit we had kickback from them. Where we found it difficult, and again, Suda will be testament to this, was with a lot of the older guys in the office, because they were very set in their ways. And for them, IT was always a burden. Oh, the IT system's down, or something's not working, or something's really slow. So the younger guys are really receptive to it, and they took on to it. And when there's threats in the office, what they all do now, so especially the younger guys in my team, they take screenshots of all the threats and send them around to the whole firm. So they're really receptive and they're really good for it. And they go around teaching all the other guys of what they should be doing, a lot of the older guys. And where the older guys now, it's just, I suppose, a change for them, that they need to understand that the IT systems are a huge part of our organisation, and they need to be keeping up with the change. And so that's where we've got a lot of kickback, especially when they say, oh, we don't have to do this training, I'm already fully aware. It's just keeping them on board. I think what we've done, and it's worked quite well for us, is we've done the initial formal training, but now we do a lot of ongoing training, which is basically on the job basis. So what we do is we go around the office, the emails are sent out, and yes, some people will take notice of it, other people will put it straight to their deleted items, but we're doing our bit as much as possible to make sure that everyone in the firm is aware.
What we find is doing that reminder emails on a Monday, that we find that we get less of people sending an email around to say, is this for anyone in the office? They're sending it to 80 odd people in the office. So that's happening less and less. So I presume that people are taking note of what we're doing. So yeah, that's all I can, that's how you gauge to see that people are doing what we are asking them to do. Yep, go on, sorry, Tim. Go on.
Just follow up on that question. One charity that I've done a fair chunk of work with, it's a larger one, about 3,000 employees, but they've actually implemented what's termed as reverse mentoring. So they actually get some of the younger ones working with some of the older ones to actually get them more tech savvy.
There's 2 points here really. So if being tech savvy is fine, but it's also being scam savvy. So for example, I've seen stats to suggest that younger people are more susceptible to that because they have been brought up with devices and apps and doing everything online, that they're more trusting of what they read. So it's an interesting concept. They may be tech savvy, but are they scam savvy, social engineering savvy? Do they trust things more? Just fascinating fact.
Yeah, you're probably right. In terms of their own personal lives, I imagine they will go online on their phones and do all their personal banking, all that sort of stuff. Whereas
Wi-Fi hotspots,
yeah, exactly,
payments.
and I'm sure they do.
So when you're a larger, when you're an organization where you got 50 odd people, you got to, I'm talking from a management point of view because I'm one of the partners, I make the decisions. So if 10 staff come, I was one of the people who wanted to block Wi-Fi in the firm, right? And I wanted to block it because I know what. But the staff said, no, you can't do that. So we blocked it for a certain section and all of a sudden there's an uproar. So we opened it up, and then what Mel said was somebody could hack it. So there is a fine balance. You got to keep the staff happy, and at the same time, you got to look after the security side of it as well. I'm from the other side. I'm trying to say, don't use the Wi-Fi, but some of the guys want to use the Wi-Fi. So where do you stop?
Again, it's use the Wi-Fi, but use it sensibly. Understand the threats. Yeah. Understand. So, for example, if it's an unsecured Wi-Fi, so yours is probably secured. So you've got one that's out there, password to your clients that anybody can use, but have you got like for your staff?
Exactly. So we have
different.
we have Wi-Fi which is for the staff, and we have Wi-Fi for clients who come in and use it. So that Wi-Fi is only available around the reception area. So that's where they use it. For the staff is different. They've got a different password, and we keep changing the password every 3 months now. Yeah. So that's one of the things we do. But initially, I didn't even want the staff to have it either, because as you said, some youngster is coming around, his friend has sent something, and all of a sudden you start downloading it. You don't know what's there. So yeah, that's one of the things we try to do, but we let them.
I think it's a constant. What we've noticed now is a constant education. Everything's evolving. What we taught the guys a year ago is completely redundant now. Everything's changing all the time. So we just do on-the-job basis training for the guys to say, okay, look, these are the threats. Our IT manager sends out emails to everyone saying this is what's been received this week, and it's just constantly keeping the guys informed. We're never going to be 100% secure. It's just making sure we can do our best from our point of view and making sure that the guys understand. Because for me, the most important thing, yes, is making sure we're secure. But at the end of the day, what we always look at, and when we sit down to talk about these sort of things, is our client's details. Because I don't want to call the client up and say to them, oh, sorry, our systems have failed us and we've lost your details to an outside party. That's going to make us look very amateur as a firm. And so my point has always been, yes, we have these policies and procedures in place, but we need to protect our clients. So for charities, it will be protecting your stakeholders, be it if you hold donors' information on your systems, that sort of thing. So it's just making sure you understand what data you have and what it can be used for and how you're protecting it. And we simplify it a lot of the time, and that works for us because there's so much going on that we need to simplify everything and making sure that we understand what our threats are and how we can protect ourselves.
Going back to spam emails, spam and everything, I think Tim will correct me. Bill Gates said in 2004 or 8, the spam will be dead there won't be no spam emails by 2010 or something. I think he said, isn't it, Bill Gates?
Yeah, he also said in sort of about the 80s or early 90s that soon we'll have paperless offices.
Yeah. So there you go. So we've still got more and more spam coming around. One of the things I wanted to pick up on what Tim said about Office 365. Charities have got a very good offer for Office 365, and also Google do the same thing as well. Office 365, as Tim said, I think you're paying, charities get massive discount. I think pay about $3.99 per person per month. I think we pay about 17 or 18 pounds a month. So it's a huge discount, and within that, there's a lot of facilities you can actually use. I don't know all of them what they do, but like some of them, Yammer, I think Tim showed you, but there are a lot of security you can turn on and to use it. It's a brilliant piece of kit. I've got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of Bill Gates or Microsoft, but it's a brilliant piece of kit. That's one of the best things we did, because we were on an email server somewhere, I don't know where it is, and it was always failing. So the partners will call me and say, I look after the firm's IT. Partners will call me and say at 8 o'clock in the evening, he will text me and say, my email's not working. So about 5 years ago, we moved to the Office 365 Outlook, their portal, and it's been brilliant, never goes down. We've never had any issues with the emails. So I'm going to wrap up with that. And if you got any questions, ask me. Tim, you want to come over here and you guys got any questions and you know what we have done, anything you need to know, I'm pretty happy to answer. Any cyber questions or anything relating to IT? Go on, sir.
Yeah, we're just putting a new accounting package into place, just Sage 50 online, just under the kind of thing. And normally I would have thought twice about it, but just populating the purchase ledger with individuals' bank details. Because normally, I know the system at the moment, we don't have them on the system. So, and that does worry me because it's all back up on the cloud. It's with a third party, and I don't know where the information is and who's controlling it.
Okay, where was it before?
It was just on the bank details at the moment, they're only on a Barclays.net bank system. We don't have them on any IT system at the moment.
Okay, somewhere people get concerned about the security of cloud versus on-premise, etc.
Yeah.
Somewhere, sitting somewhere is a tin, is a box somewhere. And I would argue strongly that a box sitting in a really secure environment, whether it be Amazon Web Service, Azure for Microsoft, or even a hybrid of that, somebody sitting in somebody's data center, is far more secure than something sitting on a server in your own office. What you're doing is sharing the security facilities of a higher investment. One of the advantages of having somebody helping manage that for you is that if you put in a request for how you want that segregated, how you want that stored, what your personal preferences are, that can normally be aggregated, could be cut and paste if you like to fit your circumstance. But the argument that on-premise versus cloud, you're not sure how that's stored, etc., I think is outweighed by the fact that actually somebody could come in, steal the box, could have a fire. Ronnie, we had a client that had a nice broom cupboard, was it in Holborn somewhere, where they were quite proud of where their information was stored. The week after we actually moved it to our own secure state, that building caught fire, but for 7 days they'd have lost absolutely everything. So I think it's almost a folly. It's an argument that the only argument is when's the right time to move from on-premise to cloud. It's when, not if.
Well, it's interesting you talk about Sage 950 and going online. I think a lot of our clients, we've noticed, haven't we? Most of the guys using Sage QuickBooks now are all either going on the online versions or onto Xero. And I think it's just going to be a shift in your mindset to feel that, it's not physically here, it's on a cloud, and it's just that mindset shift to say, we have loads of clients who say to us, oh gosh, I'm not going to populate so much in there because it's out of my remit, it's out of my realm. But you need to understand that also, you're sharing that security, and the firm that you're doing that with, be it Sage, they're going to have their own policies and procedures in place to make sure that that data is all secure.
Yeah, ask them, where's this being stored? Physically, where's this being stored? Certainly with AWS and with Azure, you have a choice. Sometimes that'll be dictated to by legislation. So in GDPR, it's looking for European domain. But ask them what security they put in place. Do they have 27001, for example?
I imagine Sage will be, I'm not sure if you know where Sage's servers are, because I know Xero's ones are somewhere.
Xero's on AWS, isn't
Yeah.
it? The Xero's on AWS. Are you on Sage Online? You're going with that? Yeah. Okay, I don't know where their servers are, whether they use the Azure or no AWS. I don't know, but you can ask them. And I agree with Tim. It's a lot more. I would say it's a lot more secure than on-premise. I would be surprised if it's not. Very, very surprised. I think it's a lot more. Right. It's for us to get our mindset, to say everything, is going online. Is it secure? I think the chances are it is a lot more secure than on-premise. I would say. I would love to move everything that we have somewhere on the cloud, but the way our system's set up and some of the software we use, we can't do it, unfortunately. But you know, I can sleep peacefully if everything's on the cloud. I don't have to worry about. You have to look at disaster recovery as well, as Tim said. You know, your PC goes up up in flames. Touch wood, doesn't happen. But
there was an interesting conversation during the break where somebody asked me about what do I think about drills for disaster recovery. And quite often we'll go into organisations and say, we've got disaster recovery. Yeah, we've got a policy for that. When did you last check it? You do a fire drill regularly because you're forced to, because you have to. When did you actually last do a fire drill, if you like, for your disaster recovery? Because at the moment, if you haven't, all it is a nice work of fiction sat somewhere, either in a paper document or an electronic portal or somewhere, however you've decided to store it and give access to it.
Just in addition to that point as well, GDPR actually states you have to be ready to respond to a breach. And if you're not practiced or aware of what you should be doing, then I would argue you're not ready to respond to that breach.
yeah.
And certainly if you look at any of the ISO standards, 27001 for example, or Cyber Essentials, what we mentioned, if somebody's coming in and giving you certification around that, they'll look for evidence that you're actually doing disaster recovery drills.
Conscious of the time, I think we did say we finish at 11, isn't it, for everybody to go? Yeah, you've got any more questions, or we'll be hanging around? You've gone to.
Any business that handles credit card transactions has to comply with the banking industry's PCI DSS regulations. And to do that, you fill in one of a number of SAQ questionnaires. Working with my colleague who's got a master's in exactly this field, it appears that there is unique terminology in those SAQs. What is the point of producing questionnaires that no one other than perhaps themselves, and I say perhaps, because we've asked them, and they can't even explain their own questionnaires. What's the point?
We had the same issue with the credit card machine people. We had to go back to them about 5 times before we got to that, because our IT guy, he thinks he knows everything. I think he doesn't know anyway. Yeah, he's a nightmare. You're absolutely right. You know, that's the industry. You think sometimes they don't think about these questions they're asking. You know, somebody just got it, downloaded it somewhere and just sent it into us. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We had the same issue. It is some of that's 35 or 40 pages as well. You know, a lot of them doesn't apply to us, and it's ridiculous. Yeah, that's the industry, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, when we had PCI compliance with one firm I was with, we had to use a firm in Arizona to walk us through it. And we paid them to do it. I thought it was amazing.
A lot of the insurance, cyber, you can get a cyber insurance as well, and their questions are very technical as well. So we got cyber insurance now, so that's one of the things that you can look into. Get a cyber insurance. It's not expensive, but the form that you had to fill in is quite chunky. So yeah, that's one thing that you can do as well.
Just to wrap up, so I'd just like to say thank you to Tim.
Pleasure. Thank you all for your attention
today. And like I say, if you've got any other questions, feel free to come and grab us now, or take a business card and give us a call or an email. And I'm sure Tim's always available, as he said. So thank you for coming today, and we appreciate it. Cheers.